The two biggest complaints when it comes to crypto investing are number one, everything follows Bitcoin. And number two, what happens if Clarity Act doesn't go through? How do we know what is going to move forward even without clarity? Well, the good news is there is one token that covers both of those bases, and that's why it has moved up to a tie for the number one spot in my portfolio right next to my XRP when it comes to crypto. And I'm talking about Canton Network, or Canton Coin for the native token. A lot of you are still really unfamiliar with what it is and why I may be so high on it moving forward. So we're going to do a deep dive breakdown today, and I'm going to show you why I'm so high on it and why I believe it's a hedge, not only against the traditional crypto and the traditional movement of crypto, such as Bitcoin, but also a hedge against the Clarity Act. So buckle in. Today is the CC stream. Make sure you hit the like button. Let's hop into it. I am prepared for you. I have all of the information. So, number one, when we're talking about any kind of crypto, at least when I'm talking about any kind of crypto that I may be investing in moving forward, I always start with who's backing it. What does the institutional adoption look like? What is the reality that this is actually going to have a real use case moving forward over the next 5 to 10 years? Because this channel is about the long view. What crypto is going to be 5, 10 years from now. That being said, looking at who is building, who is actually using the technology, who is actually using the blockchain. Well, we're going to explain. So what you're looking at here on the screen is every single validator and super validator currently working with or on the Canton Network. With that being the case, you can see names in here that you might be familiar with. Names like Chainlink, names like Franklin Templeton, names like the DTCC, things like that. These are all people who are involved, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. All people who are involved as a validator or super validator on the Canton Network. Why is that important? Well, because the validators are who actually are earning right now on the network. And we're going to explain, again, we need to follow the money, right? When money is building on a blockchain, we need to pay attention to it. So Digital Asset is the company that created Canton Network, much like Ripple is the company that created the XRP ledger. So Canton Network is the blockchain, Canton Coin is the token, Digital Asset is the company behind the blockchain. Should sound familiar, right? Now, when Digital Asset went live and started building, these are the investors in Digital Asset. You're going to notice some names here: BNP Paribas, Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, NASDAQ, S&P Global, iCapital, DRW, Liberty City Ventures, TradeWeb, and QCP Capital. These are all companies that invested in getting the blockchain up and running. Now, why do I say this is a hedge against the banks? Well, that's because they're building on it and they don't need clarity to utilize it. This is not centered around stablecoins or stablecoin yield. This is not centered around DeFi, although it does use DeFi, but not in a retail sense. It's for institutions. And that is not what's being held up with the Clarity Act right now. This formula, if you will, as far as how the Canton Network is utilized, is not impacted by the Clarity Act because these institutions are already building and already using. It is not involved with stablecoin yield. It is not involved with retail DeFi, although there is institutional DeFi, which is kind of governed differently, right? They're going to screw retail on the Clarity Act. That's always been my viewpoint. We're not going to get what we want, but banks are going to get what they want, I do believe. So these are the investors into Digital Asset. Now, let's move on forward. So what are the tokenomics? How are we going to make money with Canton Coin? How will number go up? Well, the burn to mint ratio. So what Canton has a unique formula. They're striving for an equilibrium of the burn to mint ratio. And the way the utility element of it works is the more utility, right? The more CC or the more utility, the more transactions, the more things that are done, the more CC is burned. Now, here's where it gets very evident that this was made for big banks, right? Because the people who get the freshly minted CC, the freshly minted Canton Coin, are the people building on the network. It's going to be the validators, number one, that we just talked about. They get the largest supply of any freshly minted tokens. Right now it's 62%. And then the app builders and the app developers get about roughly, I want to say 20%. I have the breakdown here in a second. But the point is that the people building on the network are the people benefiting from the network as new tokens are minted. Now, Canton Coin, big red flag for most people. Canton Coin has an infinite supply, right? Now, they had a pre-mint, but they will have more minted, and it will happen as an infinite supply. However, they just halved their minting and then did an additional reduction in January. Why is this important? Well, utility is going to drive what is being burned, and I have stats for you on that as well. But utility is going to drive what is being burned. There is active utility on Canton Network, right? Broadridge handles repo, and they're doing roughly 250 to 300 billion a day on Canton Network as it sits right now. JP Morgan building on Canton Network, okay? And many, many more. Zebec partnered, Chainlink partnered, and we're going to get into all that as well. So the issuance of CC was cut in half in January and had an additional reduction. I can pull this up for you here. Let me get to the correct screen. So you can see right here, this is an example of the burn to mint ratio as far as what's being burned and what's being minted. As of February 24th, it was already up to a 0.8, almost at equilibrium. You can see the rise since January of last year. You can also see the rise in burn activity since July of 2024, January of last year, and the reduction in minting activity. So they have reduced the minting activity while this is surging to its equilibrium. Now, if we go back to the screen over here, 2026 through 2029, this is going to continue. So there's a lower issuance rate and application rewards will dominate the emission. So super validators will be capped to 20%, whereas before they were at 62%, then 48%, then they're going to be capped at 20%. Why did they do it this way? Well, to drive activity to the network. So the validators bring activity to the network, and then the apps and the actual application rewards switches and takes over the majority of the CC being minted. Because once they've brought on the business, then they want to build the business, make it more user friendly. So again, mint has been reduced while burn has been ramping up, and we can see that very clearly right here. Now, that being said, again, there is an infinite supply of tokens, and it will always be battling for equilibrium. But why am I high on this? Well, because it looks like we got 3.5 years till we're going to see any other ramp up in coin production with the amount of utility that is coming onto the network so rapidly. And we're going to cover that here in a second too. This is going to be deflationary, in my opinion, this year. That CC will start to flip to deflationary, and we'll have to strive to get equilibrium back with how fast this is ramping up, which would mean a drastic increase in price for Canton Network. One of the things I'm looking at, why I think that it is decoupled, if you will, for lack of a better word, from Bitcoin. And we can go back and actually look at the price action over the last 3 to 4 months. It moves completely separate from Bitcoin. Moves to a beat of its own drum. A lot of times you see Bitcoin going down, CC is going up because it relies on utility. Pricing is based on utility. Now, I do have more information for you. One more thing here. I've always said 2026 is going to be the year of interoperability. Who is Canton Network already working with that was announced this year? Chainlink, Layer 0, JP Morgan, and just had announcements from Zabek and new tokens. Clearwater token now coming to the Canton Network. Regulated stablecoin for FX and tokenized settlement is launching on Canton. Clear token is deploying CT Register, CT Pay, and CT Settle to deliver FCA authorized tokenization, PVP payments, and DVP settlements across fiat, stablecoins, and crypto assets, all running on the Canton Network. Again, recently, they just partnered with Zabek to bring a retail option and payments to Canton, as well as partnerships for payroll on Canton Network. Again, here's the announcement between Chainlink and Canton, as well as latest Temple Digital Group has just launched 24/7 institutional trading platform on Canton Network, offering non-custodial trading of crypto, stablecoins, and planned support of tokenized equities. So why am I so high on Canton Network? Well, it's simple. The more it's used, the more the token will appreciate. And the banks are building and using Canton Network at a ridiculous scale. As far as the real world asset tokenization moving on Ledger, number one and number two over the last 30 days are Canton Network and XRPL. New BitGo adds custody support to Canton Coin, giving U.S. institutions compliant access across the Canton Network. They are also partnered with Fireblocks for digital custody. Tokenized gold infrastructure is coming to Canton. Orox is integrating with the network to bring compliant, privacy-enabled workflows for digital gold-backed and physical custody, expanding institutional infrastructure for tokenized commodities. Gold coming to that network. Okay, now here's the thing. When we're talking about the burn to mint ratio for Canton Network, a little over 2 months ago, Canton was at $873,000 in daily fees. Today, as of February, what was this date? I can't remember what this date was. I want to say this was February 24th. But it was at 2.5 million in daily fees on a slow day. Outstanding. So again, this was back in January, 837K in daily fees, outpacing Solana, BNB, and Ethereum. But since then, it's moved up to 2.5 million in daily fees. This is activity on the network, and it's only accelerating as more and more players come in, and it bridges out across more and more chains and more interoperability. Zenith launched the native EVM execution layer for Canton. Ethereum developers can deploy unmodified Solidity applications that interact atomically with Canton's privacy-enabled institutional infrastructure. So Ethereum builders can now work with Canton Network as well. Kaiko and Bloomberg, major names, okay? Again, both validators, we can go back and check. Trusted reference data synchronized at the protocol layer. Bloomberg data license offerings are being developed on-chain access via Kaiko data on Canton, beginning with treasuries and repo. So you can now have your Bloomberg licensing on Canton Network. These are the major players in repo, major players in cross-border settlement. Okay, Canton is plugged in with these people as validators on their network. But let's go even further. Through commercial bank deposits held on Ledger, LSEG, or the London Stock Exchange, enables 24/7 instantaneous beneficial ownership transfer of commercial bank money in multiple currencies and jurisdictions at any bank within the CC network. Again, London Stock Exchange, they're plugged in and working with the DTCC, and more to come. Welcome to the ecosystem. Again, Zabek partnering with Lattice to bring the first neobank onto the Canton Network. Did you know 10 years ago, the CME Group invested in digital assets, the blockchain behind Canton Network back in 2016? Through its venture capital arm. Again, we talked about that over here, right? Liberty City Ventures, okay? We can take it a step further, though. New name in NASDAQ ticker Canton, trades February 18th, proud to support digitization of financial rails as the first and only publicly traded company with Canton Network digital asset treasury strategy. Thank you for your partners. So what does Canton Network have? Let's think about it. They have great institutional backing. They have a DAT treasury company. They have backing, people actually using them, JP Morgan, right? Morgan Stanley. Major banks are already working on its ledger or on its blockchain for that matter. They focused on privacy. They focused on institutions, and institutions are essentially getting paid Canton for using the blockchain, right? Or for being a validator or being a developer on the blockchain. That's why we saw so many validators jump in on this thing. Look at some of the names: Chainlink, Coinbase, Gemini, okay? Many more. We can keep going. Look at all the Ondo. What is that? Ondo over there? No, that's not Ondo. That's not Ondo. Shoot, I can't remember. I can't get my names right, but I mean, you can see. Read for yourself. Circles on here, Layer Zero, Wormhole. We've talked about a lot when it comes to XRP. Okay, all of these people are validators and buying in to the Canton Network. And a lot of people are like, okay, how much money am I going to be able to make on this if you're right, Scott? If you're right about Canton Network, how much money can I make on it? Everyone wants to know how much money, how much you pay, as they used to say in the freight world every time I would talk to a trucker. Whenever we get done talking about the shipment, how much you pay? Always the question I got. Well, right now, its market cap is currently at $5.58 billion. My opinion, with the backing, use case, technology, and what's actually being utilized now and where it can go in the future, this is easily a top 5 token this year, in my opinion. And a 10x current market cap, $5.58 billion. A 10x wouldn't even put it in the top 5. And that's if there was no other appreciation across any of the other cryptos. So, yeah, I think there is a lot of room for growth with Canton Network, currently sitting at 18th in market cap with 5.8 or 5.5 billion. So even a 10x would not move it to the top 5, and that's if nothing else moved. There's a lot of room to run in this crypto, and that's why I've moved it into my number 2/tied for my number 1 spot with XRP. Let's see here. So if you guys came in late, let me do a quick chat check, see how everyone's doing today, and then we will do a recap for anyone who came in late so you can get all the information. We can cover the tokenomics, we can cover everything again. But I wanted to show you how far out this is built in the last 3 months since it's really been somewhat mainstream. But I mean, most people, I mean, if only 0.5% of people know about XRP, then maybe 1% of those people know about Canton Coin. It is a virtual unknown to most people out there. And honestly, that's probably why I don't even know how many people are in the stream right now, but I bet you the stream is probably underperforming because this Canton token is not a buzzword. Canton Coin is not a buzzword. It's not something people care about. It's not something that people are really talking about. All right, let's get started. It says Raul Kelly made it in the house today. Congrats on almost 20K. And yeah, if you guys saw the pinned chat there, we were just under 20K subscribers. So if you're new to the stream, it's your first time here, second time here, make sure you hit subscribe. Who knows? You could be the 20,000 subscriber and help this channel grow. I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. And I talk about investing and I talk about crypto, but it's more of a long-term investment. But I will say this, when it comes to your assets, your time is truly your most valuable asset. Your time is the only commodity you can never acquire more of. So the fact that you spend your time here with me is highly appreciated. And I appreciate every single person for being here. Arthur, that is a new name. I haven't seen that one. Where are you from? And what is your favorite crypto? Whenever I see new names, I want to know where you're from and what you're currently investing in. Just want to have a good idea. Hoping for some good news today because my entire portfolio is red. You and most of the country, unfortunately, Kelly. Just about everyone is a little red today. I made a trade, so I'm green today. Made a couple $100 that brought me back up to just a little bit green. And again, not financial advice. I do some day trading, scalping here and there when I see options to make some money. Good evening, R Angel. Thank you for being here. What do you think is the biggest risk in crypto? None from the three above. In my opinion, self-discipline and protection. And the three answers mentioned are self-connected. World needs to evolve. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, most people, I would say, honestly, the biggest risk in crypto for most people is ignorance, right? If I had to give my opinion, the biggest risk for most crypto holders is ignorance, not educating fully on what they're looking at and taking the word of some random person on YouTube without doing their own research. Again, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You should always go out and do your own research. Investing comes with the risk of loss. But I would say, honestly, in my opinion, the biggest risk when it comes to crypto is poor education, poor research, and taking random people's words for it. Should I buy more XRP or newly invest into CC? I will never tell anyone what they should or shouldn't invest in. I will tell you what I have done. So me personally, I invest in 5 cryptos regularly every single month. And that is XRP, Canton Network, HBAR, Chainlink, and Ondo. That being said, recently I have slowed my Ondo and increased my CC to where now my weight of my portfolio is completely even between XRP and Canton Coin. But that's me. That's what I've done in my own personal life. I have a very large bag of XRP and I have a very large bag of Canton because I believe they have the best chance moving forward for a return on my investment based on the backing, the use case, how they're plugging in, the infrastructure that's being built. So that's why I am moving into those. That's just me though. Is CC on Solana? No, it is not integrated with Solana yet. You can purchase Canton Coin. It is live on Robinhood. Now remember, with Canton Coin, if you decide you want to purchase some, you're going to have to custody it where you purchase it. So that means if you buy it on Robinhood, you can't transfer it off. It doesn't move around like a normal cryptocurrency. This is an institutional piece of infrastructure. Okay. So if you purchase Canton Coin, it's going to be held in the custody of where you purchase it. That's why I personally like to hold the majority of my Canton Coin on Caleb and Brown because it comes with free institutional custody. But that's me. Everyone's entitled to their own way. I know it's available on a few exchanges now. It just went live on Robinhood last week or the week before, as well as it's available on Uphold and I think Kraken now also. I'm not sure on Kraken. Don't quote me on that. But there's rumors that it's going to be coming to Binance and Coinbase soon as well. Again, hasn't even made most of the major exchanges. Literally just got listed on Robinhood. That's how early people are to Canton Coin. Again, though, if you're going to purchase it, you can't move it around to random cold wallets. You're going to have to hold it in custody, either with the exchange or in institutional custody with the broker that you purchased it from. Raul says, I have both XRP and Canton. Me too. Does the infinite supply concern you? No, not right now. At least not for the next 5 years. It does not concern me. And again, I'm a long-term investor looking at 5 to 10 years. Why does it not concern me? Well, they just halved how many can be minted. And the amount, think about it, right now, it was just announced, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago, only 1% of money market funds, like all these things that are going to be tokenized, only 1% has been tokenized to this point, okay? And you have people like Larry Fink and JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and whoever other major bigwig you want to point out, Robinhood, whatever. Tokenization is a freight train that is coming for everything. Why do we know this? You can always plan on people doing what's in their own best interest. What's in BlackRock's best interest? 24/7 trading with a larger scope of people to trade with because they get paid the fees on the transactions, right? So the more people transacting, the more people they get paid from. Tokenization is not going away. It's going to make way too much money for the people who don't need all the money. But again, we can always bank on people serving their best interests. So what am I doing? I'm aligning my interest with where I think this is going to go. And I can bank on the banks getting their way because of the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Just how I look at it. Toby Boy says he is long too. Good. Long view. We love the long view here. We are all about the long view. We Bulgarians always are one of the first. Vlad Tenev is from Bulgaria. There you go. Okay. CC is a wonderful, wonderful project. I love it. I'm a little disappointed that it took me so long to find it because I really didn't start researching it and finding anything about it until November. And then, of course, before I pulled the trigger, they made the DTCC announcement, and then I just jumped in right there. I was like, okay, that's the information I needed to know. When they made the announcement that the DTCC was tokenizing on Canton Network in December, that sealed the deal for me right there. So let's do a recap for anyone who came in late, and we will move on to the Q&A and hangout portion of the stream. So keep the chat rolling, everybody, and we will do the recap right now. So thank you if you made it into the stream. I appreciate everyone being here. When it comes to crypto as a whole, there's two main things people are concerned about as investors. And one is that everything follows Bitcoin. Two is what happens if the Clarity Act doesn't go through? What happens if the banks stall this? Well, that's why I chose a crypto that is basically being run by and paid for by institutions. When I say it's being run by and being paid for institutions, I'm talking about the Canton Network. Right here on the screen is a list of validators that are currently working with and on the Canton Network. Major players. You can go through and read them all, but some of them are Franklin Templeton, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Chainlink, Zabec, Gemini, Coinbase, like all of these people are involved with the Canton Network. And if you want to take it a step further, if you want to look at the company behind Canton Network, Digital Asset, kind of like Ripple has the XRPL, Digital Asset has Canton Network. So the companies that were involved, BNP Paribas, Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, NASDAQ, S&P Global, iCapital, DRW, Liberty City Ventures, TradeWeb, and QCP Capital. Not to mention other backing that it received later from the DTCC, right? Partnering with the DTCC to start doing repo and back-end settlement with the DTCC. That was announced back in December. But a lot of people, when it comes to investing in a token, they want to know about the tokenomics. How is this token going to make money? And that's where a lot of cryptos actually really fall short in explaining how their token is actually going to create value for the user. They did a very good job of explaining that for Canton Network. So let me start out with the red buzzword. There's an infinite amount of Canton Coin. Why is there an infinite amount? Because Canton is used for burn fees for every transaction that happens on the network. And when Canton is burned, new tokens are minted. The new freshly minted tokens go to the validators and the app developers. And that is continuing to be decreased. Right now, super validators are getting about 48%, but in 26 to 2029, that's going to be dropped down to 20%. As well as more of an increase for the actual app developers. The whole purpose of this is to drive utility to the ledger. And again, the ledger's only at 1%, right, of its total value. And when I say it's only at 1% of its total value, tokenization now is only at 1% of everything that's going to be tokenized. And that's per every major banker you can discuss. Larry Fink, JP Diamond, whoever. Right, Robinhood, tokenization is a freight train. Everything's going to be tokenized by 2030. I think we can agree on that at this point because it makes way too much money for the rich players. It really does. So utility will be ramping up. Right now, they said Broadridge processes about 300 billion in repos daily on the Canton Network right now. And they said they're only doing about 5%. And that's just the repo. Okay. So the amount that still has to ramp up has a long way to go. So they are having the amount of mint. So they're reducing what's being minted while the burn rate is increasing. And so minted amount being decreased while the burn rate is increasing. And you can see the burn to mint ratio as of February 24th was at a 0.9. If it moves beyond 0.9, it becomes deflationary. What happens when there is more demand for an asset than there is of an asset? Number go up. So that's what I am expecting. As this continues to ramp up and it moves deflationary, then the price will continue to appreciate. And and for me, when we talk about price being ready to appreciate, there's a lot of room to grow for Canton Network. Current market cap is only 5.5 billion. I believe this is a top 5 token minimum, if not a top 3 token. But I believe this is a top 5 minimum. A 10x, we're currently at 14.6 cents. A 10x wouldn't even put this in the top 5. And that's if nothing else appreciated along the way. There's a lot of room for growth when we're talking about the validators, the institutions, and the amount of big corporations that are tying in the Canton Network already. DTCC, London Stock Exchange, JP Morgan, BlackRock's involved with some initial investing. And again, I have a couple videos that you can go back and check. Not to mention you have things like if you really want to get into it, we can go to things like, where's it at? Theramune here. But don't forget, they have backing. Theramune, now the Canton Strategic Holding. Vanguard owns like 3% of this. So we have to look at not just who's holding Canton and who's building on Canton, but who's investing in the asset company. When you have companies like Vanguard and BlackRock investing in the treasury company, that tells me that might be a place where I want to put some of my money. But that's just me. So I do fully believe that this is a top 5 token and will appreciate hopefully into the top 5 this year. But if not, I don't see it finishing outside the top 10, worst case scenario. And that's why I'm all in on Canton. Well, not all in on Canton. It is tied for the number 1 position in my crypto investing. So I consider that to be all in on Canton for what it's going to be over the next 5 years as tokenization ramps up. And as new information comes out, I may change my mind, but because of the tokenization play and the institutional adoption, that's where I'm sitting at with this. My opinion. And again, not financial advice. Everyone do your own research, but that's where I'm at with it. So let's get back in the chat and see how everyone is going. Hopefully you guys keep chatting. Canton doesn't move for now or won't ever move. I thought it was just a matter of time. Is it how it's built that can't be moved and why? Not sure I understand. So it's not moving with retail and the rest of crypto because there's not a ton of institutional investment of people buying and trading the token. You don't have a lot of people buying and trading the token like you do with XRP, like you do with Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum. There's lots of people moving around and trading those assets, futures, derivatives. So when you see large moves in things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're trading institutionally and in a different way than Canton is. Canton's not really out there being traded. It's definitely not being traded with leverage, right? So that's why it's not moving with the rest of crypto. It's only moving off of utility and the burn to mint ratio. That's why when Bitcoin collapsed 30% over the last few months, Canton Network essentially doubled in price. It did not move with Bitcoin at all. It's moving purely off of its utility because it's not being traded institutionally. There's no leverage trading on Canton Network, or if there is, it's not readily available, right? Race Fan made it in the house today. Welcome, welcome. H-Bar a few months ago had the same issue, not movable. it is still the same because I sold my full bag. Again, that's why we're here for the long view. There's going to be periods of stagnation. You know what I mean? But what are some possible evaluations? Are you talking about evaluations of the token on where I think it can go as far as like a price prediction? So you can ask Raul. He'll back me up on this because I haven't really been giving out any of what I thought CC could be because it doesn't move the same. And I was actually doing some technical analysis in the members only live stream last night with Raul, kind of looking at CC. And actually I was telling him, I said, well, I was looking at these levels. I don't have it pulled up in front of me right now, but I was looking at these levels and I told him, I said, yeah, we had this little pullback right here that brought it all the way down to 14.3. And I was looking at these previous levels it hit, and I think it's going to triple tap off of this. I think it's going to hit it one more time. Last night, I just told him that. I said, because he was talking about his order didn't get filled because of the, what is it? Gosh, because of the spread, his order didn't get filled and mine did. And because I was doing it on Caleb and Brown, and he was doing it somewhere else. So I said, well, looking at this, I actually think we're going to triple tap off of this 14.5 cent line, which it did today, mind you. I think it's good. And then I said, I think the next leg, looking at the previous levels, is going to be 21 cents before it levels out again. So I'm expecting, just based off, basic technical analysis, and again, not financial advice, and ultimately short-term price moves aren't what I'm here for. But I'm expecting a rebound to 21 cents off of this last drop to 14. That's what I was talking about yesterday in the stream, and it pulled back and tapped that price again today for the third time. So we'll see if I'm right. I think it's going to move up to 21 cents for the next leg, just looking at the technical analysis and the levels. But I think this is right now, I think by the end of the year, this is a $1 to $2 token. And I think by 2030, it could be $3 to $5. That's my view on what Canton can be realistically over the next 5 years. So I'm looking at $1 to $2 this year, and then hopefully $3 to $5 by 2030 as more and more tokenization comes in, more and more ramps up. And to me, it's not dependent on clarity. Because again, it doesn't really factor into the DeFi issues they're having or the stablecoin yield issues that they're having and any of that. So that's where I'm looking at with CC. And that's why I'm not worried about the infinite supply as of right now, because there's so much utility that's going to be moving on the network over the next 5 years. And I'll reevaluate when we get to that point. But I'm not worried about anything when it comes to the token amount until we get to that top 5, top 3 spot in market cap. Nothing is going up right now. Why it's a good time to buy. Yeah. I mean, not financial advice, but buying green candles is not a good investment strategy. And unfortunately, most people don't want to buy something till they start seeing it go up. And I am of the vein that I like to buy the red candles. And if I see a project that I am high on and it's just getting cheaper, that's a buying opportunity, because I'm looking at for what it's going to be 5 to 10 years from now, not necessarily what it's going to be right now or what it's doing today, tomorrow, or next week. Do you have equal amounts of XRP and CC tokens, or is it the dollar amount? It's the dollar amount. I have equal dollar amount of tokens, not necessarily tokens. But yeah, I have equal dollar amount of investment in my XRP and my CC. You got yours filled today? Yeah, because it drop down to, I saw it drop down to 14.6. I don't know if it went lower than that or not, Raul. I meant moving to wallets, not about appreciating. Oh, there is going to be more hardware available later. Like they've already started releasing a couple, but there's going to be more hardware available for Canton in the future. I can, again, we think about the hardware wallets that were out there and how long it took them to get up and running for some of these things. So as this builds out, there will be more hardware wallet available for Canton. As a matter of fact, there's already some available now, but they're more of a niche type wallet. And I don't want to go out and buy or set up one new specific wallet just to store my Canton on it. So I'm just leaving it in institutional custody for now. That feels safe to me. But there are more wallets almost coming out every week that can store Canton. So I think it's a matter of time as it builds out. More custody options will be available for you. But right now it's very limited. Bro, because it's cheap. Buy on Max Sphere. I'm waiting for mid to end of April to make a huge order. Well, hopefully the Clarity Act doesn't pass by mid-end April, or that's the thing about trying to time tops and bottoms. That's why I dollar cost average in, and I try to make a point that I say that to everyone, that I think that's the best way to go. What if Clarity gets done in April? You think that wouldn't have a rally? What if the whole Iran thing ends tomorrow? That would be a rally. You have to think, even with this whole Iran thing going on over the last 2 weeks, it really hasn't had an impact on crypto. Crypto was already where it was when it got there. So the crypto market's not really getting hit by this. I mean, stocks did, oil's ripping, but crypto's not really being hit that hard by this right now. I'm about the same amount of tokens right now. I'm getting my CC bag the same size as my H bar, says Raul. Yeah, my H bar. So the way I have it set up is probably honestly about 70% of my bag of my crypto bag is XRP and Canton, and then probably about 15% is H bar, and maybe about 8% Chainlink, and then the rest is Ondo. And I have maybe 1% of my entire crypto stack that's just like random dart throws. I have some Flare, I have some XDC, I have some Layer 0. Just like the random dart throws, not what I typically invest in every single month. But my core 5, I invest in every single month, not necessarily trying to time tops or bottoms, especially with CC. I was ramping that up very, very fast with my buy order targets. So that's everything. How many people we got in the stream? I have a new announcement too, actually. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me see here. All right, 53 in here. I have an announcement for all of my members and any new members coming in. My main core members, I'm actually changing things. We're not going to be doing a members only live stream on Wednesdays anymore. For now on, I'm actually changing it to my current members and the next 6 memberships. And we will change it after that. But for the current members and the next 6 memberships, all of you will now, instead of a weekly members live stream, it's going to be a weekly Google Hangout session where we can talk about what's going on in the market, where we can talk about what the plan is for next week, when we talk about the channel and the direction of the channel and growing the channel. Because I feel like especially my core 4, I'm calling them, my core 4, the first 4 members who have been there with me, ever since the memberships went live, they have a lot of input on actually building out the channel and growing this community. Because again, the channel is about the long view and about building a different community around crypto. So all of my core members will do a weekly Google Hangout on Wednesday where we can just sit there, talk, have a conversation, try to get ourselves in position for the next week going forward. And again, none of it is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I do not offer financial advice in these, but I feel like it's a better way to go than just having a live stream, especially for those first 10. So my core 10 members, we will have a weekly hangout session where we can all talk every single week and try to get ourselves in the best position possible for the next week. All right. Our Angel, in my opinion, Iran thing during this time will send at least $150 a barrel. About Clarity, guess first retail will be excited, but nothing going to happen for a few months. And we'll go to the institutional load up. Exactly. So when Clarity goes through, again, I believe Clarity is the bridge that's going to release institutional adoption, but it takes time. We might have a sell. We're probably going to have a pump when everyone's like, oh, Clarity's finally going to get done. And then when it's actually signed, it's probably going to be a sell the news event, more than likely, because it's not like it's going to immediately flip the switch and turn everything on. They still have to write rules. Like, it's not going to change everything all at once. It's going to take time. 70 is XRP for me, 10 H bar, 70% XRP, 10% H bar. Okay. To get my XRP back to 80. All right. Holding and Kraken is just fine to me. I have a feeling at some point CC is going to be close to flipping ETH. I believe it's a top 3 token. Like, I truly believe that. For sure a top 5. But I believe it's a top 3 token. And it could flip ETH. I think XRP could flip ETH this year too. ETH is struggling this year. They are like, it's not really bringing on a lot more real world tokenization at this point. You're starting to see the real world tokenization really ramp up in the other chains like the XRPL and Canton and Solana. I mean, I'm still not a huge big fan of Solana either, but I really don't like ETH anymore. When I first got into crypto, I was really high on ETH, and then a lot of shady things went down. I was like, I'm not really feeling this. And I also not a big fan of JP Morgan, and they're putting a lot of their money in ETH also. But again, follow the money, right? Smash the like button. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, hit the like button. Let's try and get it to 100 likes. Let's try to share it far and wide. The last week or so, the stream has been growing fantastically, and that's all because of you guys. The more engagement, the more chat, the longer you all watch and stay and hang out, the more it grows the stream, the more it sends it out there to more people. We had a great stream yesterday, got up, almost broke 200 for our first time, and I love to see it grow, so thank you all. I appreciate it. It's all because of you guys. So let's keep the chat rolling. I still have some more time. I usually try to go at least an hour. If you guys are new to stream, hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the alert button. Make sure you hit the bell because YouTube's been having issues with getting the notifications out to people. But we stream every single day, Monday through Saturday at noon. We discuss all things crypto, all things stock market. Because we have to keep an eye on the overall market. It affects crypto. Crypto follows the overall market unless you're Canton Coin until otherwise stated. Right? Everything still follows Bitcoin with a couple rare exceptions, which is why we were talking about this one today. Let's see. Let's go on. You guys keep the chat rolling. I'll try and find some other stuff for us to look at and do right now. Bitcoin currently up to 70,300. Again, over 70. I have my level here at 72,000. I'm wanting to see break through Bitcoin and hold it. We tried earlier this week and fell through. Needed to hold. It's still deciding. Hovering around the 70,000 mark if it is going to hold it or continue moving forward. XRP is down today, 138, well, up 0.87%, whatever you want to call it. I've bounced back and forth. I made a trade today. So I was down pretty bad this morning because of everything pulling back, but I made a trade today, brought me back up to even. So that was good. So I'm even for the day. I was positive, so it pulled back some more. What's oil doing today? Oil's now sitting right at $95, doing its decision point here. I was obviously playing around a little bit, even though I said I was out of oil yesterday. Raul goaded me back into it because I was doing the members only live stream. I'm just sitting there looking at it, and it was at $93 at the time. And I'm like, I can tell this is going to go to $95. I'm just looking at the pattern. I'm like, it's going to $95. It's going to be there in a few minutes. And I shit you not, like minutes later, there it is. I'm like, okay. I hate being able to do the pattern recognition like that because it gets me into trouble sometimes. Sometimes it costs me money, but because I'm not looking at all the technicals, I just look at the pattern and I can just see where it's going. It makes absolutely no sense. It's my ADHD brain, especially if I look at a chart long enough, I can see it. I can just see how the pattern's moving. That's just me though. That's kind of how I got started in day trading back in the day. Decoupling will end soon. I really, really hope so. With my 1 year of studying XRP BTC dominance, it will end very soon. I hope you're right. I hope Bitcoin dominance ends. When Bitcoin dominance ends, regardless of how it ends, that means it's altcoin season. When Bitcoin dominance ends, that's a rotation into altcoins, and that's where we make the money, especially since I don't hold any Bitcoin. Right? I sold all my Bitcoin. Actually, I started selling out of my Bitcoin in July of last year. Finished selling out of it in October, and then moved into Canton Network in November. So it was a great rotation for me. Worked out really well in that area. I can't say I saw that coming. It just happened to really work out for me and the way I was doing my research and what I was getting into. So I literally pretty much dollar cost averaged out of Bitcoin from its all-time high to roughly 90,000 and bought into Canton, and it doubled and it started doubling in value. It worked out great for me. I wish I could say I planned that, but I didn't. Let's see here. Not all altcoins, but the utility ones will shine. Yes. So I do believe too, the next pump, we're going to see some coins go to zero, right? There are going to be some altcoins that are going to go away, that aren't going to win. And I think Cardano might be one of them. That's why we're seeing Mr. Hoskinson so up in arms. I think his project might be going away. They put it so much money into Midnight to try and catch the privacy area of it, and no one wants to touch it, right? No one's touching it. They're all going Canton. They're all going XRPL with their privacy layer. So I think Cardano is one of those ones that might go away. Uniswap's not going anywhere. BlackRock's with them. Ondo's not going anywhere. It's way too much tokenization. However, I am starting, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not adding more to Ondo anymore right now. I want to see some movement on the token. I want to see some proof and appreciation on the token itself for Ondo before I add any more into it. I didn't sell any of it. I'm still holding it. And I'm holding at a profit. But again, I want to see some movement on the token before I put any more investment into Ondo. They've tokenized, they're leading in tokenization of money market funds. That's not doing squat for the token. I want to see some appreciation there. But that's just me. I really don't see the purpose of ADA. It's supposed to be there for transactions and stuff like that, but it's not there's no volume on their blockchain. Right now, honestly, Cardano has a better argument for a store of value, but they're not going to try and compete with Bitcoin. Well, I think Cardano has a better argument for a store of value than it does for a utility blockchain. So that's why I haven't really messed with Cardano. There's really nothing on the blockchain. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. If there's a Cardano maxi out there, let me know. But I don't see any movement on their blockchain like ever. And they came out with their Midnight privacy layer, and there's been nothing of that spoken of since then. All we hear about is Canton Network and XRP Ledger and their privacy layers. If CC goes to 450, that's a 30x from right now. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, a 30x. So it's at 5 billion. A 30x would put it to 150 billion, which is roughly where XRP is now in market cap. That would put it to a top 5 token. So if it were to 30x and bring it to 450, then now Canton is a top 5 token, and you might be able to see why I'm so bullish about where it's going and what it is. I have about 3,000 Canton coins. I'll make sure to DCA. Again, not financial advice. It's just something I'm very, very high on, and I show you guys. I mean, I let you guys know when I purchase. You guys have seen me purchase. You've seen my Robinhood account before. I moved a lot of stuff off of there. Again, and if you're new to the stream, if you missed it a few days ago, I am 90% out of traditional finance. I'm 90% of my assets are no longer held in the traditional financial system. I hold most of my stuff in physical cash, gold, silver, or cryptocurrencies now. Now, I do still have about 10% of my stocks, ETFs, and paper silver, paper gold, and stuff like that, paper copper, that I can't sell or I don't want to sell, but I can't move out of the traditional system. But I actually use USDC now. I use my credit card to pay my bills, and I use USDC to pay my credit card. And I can do that straight from my Tangem wallet now. Actually, if you guys didn't know, Tangem is really ramping up. You actually can do payments from Tangem now. And they have their DEX on there. You can swap on Tangem. So Tangem is a cold storage wallet, technically. But I used it to replace my warm wallet. especially now that I can make payments from it and keep it all in one place. Tangent's basically turning itself into a little crypto bank for you. And that's exactly what the Clarity Act and what banks are so scared of. They don't want me to have the ability to debank myself, right? They don't want me to have the ability to keep my assets somewhere else where they can't use it to loan out and make money on it. So that's what we're trying to deal with. It's going down. Mine's up. Mine actually went up like 2% when Iran hit. Let me take a look. With the whole Iran thing, like the infrastructure, especially with global uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty, like copper usually really moves. Let me look. But usually with the geopolitical uncertainty, like all the infrastructure plays, food, like corn, wheat, like those things usually go up. Water, the basics. Because when there's global uncertainty, there's a premium for survivability, right? Food, water, shelter. Copper futures. Okay, yeah, they're dripping back down right now. So they did, this is what I was looking at right here. They're up. Well, they're down from here. Okay. This is what I saw. So this was the Iran and then it moved up. Yeah. So it dropped and then started rebounding. We'll see if it continues to rebound. This looks like a bear pennant flag, Kelly. Like if I'm looking at it, just, quick little analysis here. But if I'm looking at this, to me, this looks like a descending channel. So it'll probably, we'll see. Will it break the channel or will it fall below the channel? I am inclined to believe it's going to break this channel because it's a falling channel. So more than likely, it'll probably break through right around here and go up. But again, that's just me. And that's why we dollar cost average in for the long view. Let's see. Check the chat. How's everyone doing in the chat? And Europe was great with the crypto legislation because government don't know how many I have in ledger. They didn't start counting till, oh, you lucky gun, R Angel. Will they get you? Will they get you when it sells? Though, like, how are they going to get the price you bought it at? Like, how are they going to tax you when you sell it? I guess if you sell it, that's interesting. And Tangent is not even a U.S. company. Banks will be pissed. Exactly. And I still DCA. There you go. My COPX is down 8.47%. Your COPX going down. COPX. That's the thing, though. Infrastructure will go up. Infrastructure will go up. It's all but a guarantee. I mean, copper, silver, gold, like in the grand scheme of things, again, for the long view, let's see. For the long view, it will go up. It's a hedge, but in the long view, it will go up, right? It's going to have its ups and downs and spikes. It just had, look at this last time it had a massive corrective pullback. Look. This is perfect. Look at this last massive corrective pullback in July of 2025, right? And quite frankly, I started buying copper like over here in 2020 and I started buying copper in 2020. Yeah. So to be fair, I started buying my copper back here in 2020. So I'm doing really good, but look at these pullback. Pullback, massive rush, right? Pullback, massive rush. Pullback, rush. So pullback, massive rush. It just had another major pullback up here. Right here. So it could be going for another leg up. But again, if we when in doubt, zoom out. Copper going up. Copper, let's look at gold. That's the copper futures, gold futures over the last 5 years, similar patterns. Silver. It's kind of like, unfortunately, a lot of people who bought silver, like we talked about, Kelly, like a lot of people who bought silver when it was up here in the hundreds, And we were saying, maybe not buy the top there. Dollar cost average in. Anyone who was trying to hop in the silver is probably really happy if they dollar cost averaged in and started buying down here in the 70s. Again, long view, dollar cost average in, not trying to time tops and bottoms. But that's just me. And I know you're doing that too, Kelly. It's just, it feels bad. It feels bad when you're dollar cost averaging in and it's not working out for you. But to give you a prime example, one of the subscribers, not going to say who, was asking for information, and I didn't give them advice, but I told them what I would do in their situation. And they had a good stack of crypto that was falling, and they had some credit card debt, and they were worried about not having cash on hand and things like that. And I told them, I said, don't freak out. I'm going to tell you the same thing I would do on the opposite end. If I'm buying in, I'm going to dollar cost average in. If I'm selling out, I'm going to dollar cost average out. And I told them, I think you need to pull some cash. You need to pay off your debts and have some cash as a foundation to be safe. And then I would dollar cost average out of whichever asset you choose you don't want to hold anymore. I won't say which one. But they took the advice and started dollar cost averaging out. And immediately after that, the price shot up 10%. And he was worried that it was going to fall. And then the price went up again. So by dollar cost averaging out, he actually got more money than what if he would just sold it all at once. And then he got his cash on hand. And immediately after that, we bombed. We attacked Iran. And crap went haywire. So he was really, really happy to have his cash sitting there and really, really happy to get more for it. So it can work out either way. But the dollar cost averaging wins more often than not, both up and down. It will win more often than not. And that's what I told him too. He's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I did this. I'm like, it wasn't financial advice. I just told you what I was going to do. I said, but I'm telling you right now, it makes me look like a freaking genius. He's like, no, you are a genius. You saved me thousands. But again, it wasn't financial advice. It was just how I do it in my world, in my life, on what I would do. But worked out very well for him at that time. Let's see. Let's get back into the chat. Hopefully some people are talking. I'll not sell a single XRP, only buying. They can't catch me this way. 95% is in 3 different ledgers, and they can't see what I am doing on the ledger. Okay. Well, there you go then. When it comes to my XRP, I'm a buy and die kind of guy as well, especially now that we can get yield on it, even though they're trying to take that out too. They don't want us to earn they don't want us to earn yield on our XRP and stuff like that. The ABA meeting that happened yesterday, I'll probably have to do a stream on that. Bankers are scared, man. And I'm not talking the big banks. I'm talking the little bankers too, like our community banks and stuff like that. They're the ones freaking out. I think that the big banks are using that as a ploy because they don't care. Big banks don't care about earning yield on savings account and crap like that. My thing is, I think they're more about the payments, and they're just using the stablecoin yield issue to cast a show. Oh, our poor little banks, they don't care about them, just like they don't care about us. My opinion. But that's all the info. That's the entire chat. I hope everyone got some value from it. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out. It really does help the stream grow. I appreciate it more than I can probably put into words. Here's my problem. Very personal. Every time I put money into Robinhood, I can't see it just sitting there. Burns a hole in my pocket. So I start buying and selling impulsively. Need to work on that. Yeah. That's why I like buy orders. Me personally, that's why I like putting in buy orders, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a purchase, and I'll be like, okay, I want to purchase, like, what's XRP right now? Like, this is what I would do. So say I put money in the Robinhood and I'm looking at XRP and I want to buy some more XRP. It's at $1.37. I do a quick analysis. I'm like, well, it should get down here to $1.12 again, right? I mean, that was the lowest low. It's probably going to test that again. Well, maybe not. Well, what was the next low? Next low is $1.27. Okay. I think it'll test that again before it goes up. And then I'll put in a buy order. right here, buy at $1.27. And I can say how much, and it'll just sit there. And more often than not, the price comes down and taps my buy order eventually. Now, I haven't purchased it yet until it does that. But to me, that's the closest thing if you're worried about impulsively buying. That's the best way I've done it, is because you're technically putting in the order. You're technically making the decision to buy, but you're just waiting for the price to go where you want it to be. Most people never even think to do that, and that'll save people lots and lots of % on their investment. So, all right, guys, I appreciate everyone being here. I see you, Tiny Dancer. You're very, very welcome. Everyone, please hit the like button on the way out. Make sure you guys help grow the stream. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm suspicious sending left, right my tokens, but I believe in 1 year from now, everything will be regulated. My main goal is to never put out from ledger later. Can use it as collateral. Yeah, you can certainly use it as collateral later. Our Angel, it will, but I think it can be lower than $1.27 from now on. Drop like 40% more very soon. I have a buy order put in at $1.02 for XRP. Full disclosure, I was just saying examples of how to put in a buy order with quick technical analysis. If I wanted to buy $100 worth of XRP today, and I didn't already do research and everything, and I was just taking a quick look, like, even by putting in a buy order at $1.27 versus just buying it right now and allowing it time to work back to that level, still saves you several %. And if you do that over the course of 5 to 10 years while you're investing, that can add up. That can really add up over time. But that's just me and my way of doing things. So, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to take off. You guys hit the like button. Make sure I see you guys tomorrow. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. Hit the notifications so you know when we're streaming. And we will be live back tomorrow at noon. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace.